Hello, it's Joe here for Joyrider TV. So today we're going to take a look at the procedure for using a spinnaker on a catamaran. What we're going to look at is first what the crew is going to do and then what the helm is going to do. We're going to look at hoisting the sail, jibing with the spinnaker up, and then dropping the spinnaker and everything that is involved with that. Okay, so we'll start off. This is the Goodall C2, by the way. It's a Formula 18 catamaran. We're going to start off by looking at what to do as the crew with hoisting the spinnaker up. So before we even go for the hoist of the spinnaker, there's a few things we need to do. The first one is to make sure that the dagger boards are up, and we're going to bring the dagger boards up to about halfway. This is absolutely critical. So dagger boards up before the spinnaker goes up. We're also, if we have been sailing with the downhaul on hard, we're going to ease that downhaul off to about halfway as well. And then once the helmsman says he's ready, we can then start the procedure. We're going to start off by pulling the tack of the spinnaker to the end of the pole. We're then going to raise the spinnaker. We can then take the spinnaker sheet and start flying it. So the tack line, we'll do it slowly to start with. So the tack line on this boat is coming from here. There are a few variations with where the tack line is. We'll look at those at the end. We'll then hoist the spinnaker, and it is important we hoist it quite quickly. So on this boat, the spinnaker halyard is coming from the cleat on the mast. And we make sure that the spinnaker is all the way up to the top. And then once the sail is up, we can then take the spinnaker sheet. Just gonna pull a bit of halyard through there. So the basics of flying the spinnaker once it's up is we're just gonna keep easing the sail out, watching the front edge. When the front edge starts to curl, we'll then bring it back in. What we're trying to achieve here is to have the spinnaker on the verge of being too loose all the time to make sure that it's never in too tight. If the spinnaker is ever in too tight, it's really going to kill our speed, and it's the speed that makes it possible to sail with this amount of power, especially in a high wind. So easing the spinnaker out and then bringing it back in, easing it out, bringing it back in, and repeat. So we're just very gently sheeting the spinnaker there. Excellent. So then when it's time to jibe, when the helmsman says, okay, we're jibing, now we're not going to be able to do this on the beach because the boat isn't going to turn through the wind. But what we'll do is, as the boat steers downwind, we're going to ease the spinnaker out, and then as soon as the clew, the shoat horn, the back bottom corner of the spinnaker is forwards of the jib, that is when we can start pulling it across. I'm not going to do it all the way here because we might damage the sail, but we'll just pull it across, then move across the boat and start sheeting exactly the same on the other side. So just to bring that back to this side, there we go. So with our actual crew positions with the spinnaker, if the wind is really light, we want to get as far forwards as possible. And if it is so light that you can only just sail, you can actually take the spinnaker sheet directly from the spinnaker like this and just feel for the pressure in the sail, just working the sail like this. So we're really far forwards here. As the wind increases, we're going to want to come back a little bit. And if it's windy enough to lift the hull, then having the crew on the leeward side of the boat, level with the dagger board, this is optimal. It's also a very secure position. You can use both hands on the spinnaker sheet and you can play the spinnaker from there. Then as the wind gets stronger, we'll cross over to the windward side of the boat. Again, getting in a secure position, utilizing the tow strap on the trampoline, and we're just going to play the spinnaker from this position. This will have been if you've been double trapezing upwind but not necessarily completely powered up. So then as the wind gets up, so if we've been double trapezing and been well powered upwind, that would be a good time to be single trapezing downwind. So we'll move out on the trapeze, and then as the crew, what we're looking for with the trim is just to have the point of the bow just out of the water. So we'll move forwards and backwards just so that the point of the bow will be out of the water. So as the wind increases, that leeward hull is going to load up more, so we'll need to move backwards more. So once we get to the wind strength where we've been fully powered upwind, pulling the downhaul on hard, so about 16 knots, then we'll want to be moving all the way to the back of the boat, and we could get in the foot strap and brace ourselves at the back of the boat. Once you're in this position, there really is nothing quite like it. This is like absolutely flying. The helm will be on the trampoline just in front there, steering the boat. So we need to be in a good stable position, and being aware that in the big gusts the boat is going to accelerate quite quickly, which might give us the feeling of getting pulled out the back, so we just have to brace against that with the back leg. Okay, if we sail into a lull, we can move forwards a bit, and then if we get another gust, we'll come back a bit, get back in the foot strap, playing the spinnaker at all times. If we have to come back into the boat, like for a jibe, it's nice if we can keep the spinnaker filled as we come back in. So we'll move forward slightly so we've got a bit of space, reach down the sheet as far as you can, and then as you come in, really bend the arm so that we can keep the spinnaker filled. And then we'll go into the jibe from here and then out on the other side. Okay, so then dropping the spinnaker, most important is to make sure you're not sitting or standing on any of the lines, because that will of course stop the spinnaker from coming down. So the first thing we're going to do is take up the slack on the retrieval line. So the retrieval line comes through a hole in the trampoline, so we're going to release the sheet, take up the slack, and there you can see that's pulling the spinnaker in half, taking a lot of the power from it. We're then going to uncleat the halyard and immediately pull the sail down. To uncleat the halyard, the easiest is to pull it through this block on the front beam. That will release the cleat, and then we'll pull it down as quickly as we can. When it becomes tight, that's because of the tack line. So on this boat we have a tack line release on the trampoline, so that's released, and then there she is back in. So just to go through the whole hoisting and dropping procedure at full speed, one way we can hoist and drop faster is by using long arms. And when you're doing it as the crew, just really focus on the rope that you're going for. You can either go one knee, 1 foot. I find this a very good stable position. You could go 2 feet, or you could go 2 knees. 2 knees is a little bit slower. So I'm going 1 knee, 1 foot. So starting off with the tack line to the end, taking a halyard, and then on the sheet. So that is at full speed as we would do it on the race course. And then the drop, making sure none of the ropes are twisted or caught. We'll take up the slack, release the halyard, and then release the tack line. And then there she is back in. So just dropping the spinnaker one more time, just getting prepared here. So we're going to chop it in half first, then release the halyard. Just check in, not too caught up, bit of sheet there. Release the tack, and there we are. Okay, so before we can look at what we're doing as the helm, I think it's useful to have a look at our points of sail and where the power zones are. So if we consider the beam reach sailing across the wind is coming from the top here. If we consider the beam reach to be the most powered up point of sail, whether you've got a spinnaker up or not, the further we go away from the beam reach, this is when we have less power. So the areas where we have the least power is either directly into the wind where we'll be stopped, or straight downwind where we'll be sailing very slowly. So to put the spinnaker up, we want to be doing this almost straight downwind. So this is for up and down, which will be on what we call a training run, just off straight downwind. This is where we want to be hoisting or dropping the spinnaker. Then once we've got the spinnaker up, we'll turn more towards the wind, which is more towards the power, and we'll do this very slowly and smoothly, and we'll feel the power come on, and we're just going to control the power with our steering. If we want more power, we'll turn towards the wind. If we want less power, we'll turn away from the wind. So in a lighter wind with the spinnaker up, we're more likely to be sailing this kind of angle, about 45 degrees from dead downwind. As the wind increases, we're more likely to be sailing almost at this kind of angle, because we're having to take the boat that much more downwind to control the power. The furthest towards the wind we'd ever fly the spinnaker would perhaps be on a beam reach, and that would be in more of a light wind, and we'd only do that if we weren't really going downwind. So if we were trying to sail to a buoy over here, or if we're just out having fun, then taking the spinnaker on a beam reach is a good way to have fun. But if we're trying to sail as far downwind as possible, about here in the light winds, gradually further downwind as the wind increases. And then the jibe would take us from here to here. In the stronger wind, the jibe will take us, we'll have to turn through a shorter angle for the jibe, which means we'll carry our speed better, which will actually make the jibe quite easy. All right, so as the helm, in the light winds, what we need to do, as indicated on the diagram, is before we hoist the spinnaker, we always need to be taking the boat very deep downwind, so that the true wind is coming from almost from behind, from back here. Then the crew can hoist the spinnaker, and then if the wind is really light, so we're going to set the traveller just a little bit out, and if we start off, a way of looking at it is with the main sheet at a kind of diagonal angle there, the way it's sitting, so about 45 degrees. And then what we're looking at is our leech telltales on the mainsail, and we're just trying to keep the leech telltales on the mainsail flying all the time. We probably can't see those on the video here, but believe me, they are there. And then our position here will be sat up on the front crossbeam, but making sure that we are in a position where we are able to steer. So as we want more power, we're going to turn up towards the wind very slowly and very gently until we feel the power come on. And then if we get a gust and this hull starts to lift, we're just going to take the boat back downwind very slightly, not so that the hull comes crashing down, but just so it stops lifting any higher. As the wind gets stronger and we start lifting the hull, we can also bring the main sheet in more. So make sure you have taken the main sheet with you up to the front of the boat. And then as the crew moves back, as the wind gets stronger, the helm is going to move back as well. Again, doing exactly the same thing with the steering. As the hull lifts, we're just going to bear away very slightly, just so the hull stops lifting any higher, not so that the hull starts coming down. This is going to take a lot of practice to get it smooth, but once you've got that smooth, then you really are hammering it with the spinnaker. Again, we're going to move back as the wind increases. If we need to do any big movements around the boat, standing up is certainly the easiest. And then as the crew comes across, moving back more. And then we're into the realms of stronger wind. And what's important in the strong wind, if we've been trapezing upwind, it is important that the main sheet is in super tight downwind, because that is actually going to support the mast. The rotation of the mast, it won't do this on land, but on the water we want to have the mast rotated so that the spanner bar is pointing at the shroud. That is at all times with the spinnaker up. And then we're going to steer the boat from here, but again exactly the same, turning up towards the wind for more power, away from the wind for less power. And what you need to keep in mind is that all of the power control is with the steering. That is all. A good way of controlling the power also is to spot the gusts coming early. So looking in this direction for the gusts, if you see a gust coming, be ready to respond to it as soon as it hits, so that your steering can be very smooth and very subtle. And then when we get to the stage that the crew is moving into the back foot strap, we can put the tiller extension off the back of the boat in the water. If we've got one of these middle toe straps, you can use this, but I like to put my foot up against the main sheet block, and we're actually going to steer, rather than holding the bar like this, I'm going to hold the bar with my whole arm, and that's going to stop you from oversteering. So especially when you're back here and you're going fast, the steering is going to become very sensitive, so you really need to keep your steering under control, but doing exactly the same thing, just heading up very gently if you need more power, and then bearing off if you need less power. If you get hit by a big gust, bear off a bit more. If you see a big gust coming, bear off before it hits you, and that way you can take the power. But at no time should you be letting the main sheet out. So the main sheet should be in tight at all times, because that is looking after the mast. And then in the jibe, if we're in this position of great power, with it comes great responsibility, of course. We're just going to roll across the boat like this as we turn, getting the foot against the main sheet again and continuing. So it's a very small movement on the high wind jibe. And on any jibe, whether it's high wind or low wind, try to get to a position where you can look forwards again as soon as you can and adjust your steering likewise. If you're more new to using the spinnaker, what is more important on the jibe is that as soon as the boom goes across, straighten up, so that then both helm and crew have time to get sorted and organised before the power is on the new tack. Okay, so here we are on a Tiger, and I'm being helmed by Ricky Nielsen.
Hello.
And we're just going to go through the spinnaker drill on the boat here. So before the bear away, what I'm going to do as the crew is go down to leeward, lift the dagger board to about halfway, come up to windward, lift the dagger board to halfway. All right, Rick can bear away now, ready for the hoist, and I'll take the tack line, which on the Tiger is here. I'll pull the tack line out, so that is definitely at the end of a pole. I can now hoist, kites up, so Rick can bring it a bit back towards the wind to get the power on, I'm going to go to leeward because the wind's pretty light. So I'm sheeting the spinnaker from this position. We might just be a little bit high there, Rick, so you can just bear off a little bit. Okay. So I'm just keeping the spinnaker as loose as possible, easing it out, and then just pulling it back in. Okay, should we go for a jibe? Yeah. So on the jibe, I'm taking the other sheet first. This hull is turning less distance, so I'm going to stay on this one until it's through. Okay, so I've sheeted in as it goes across. Now I'm going down to the leeward side. Rick's bringing her up towards the wind to get it going again. Okay, we're just a little bit high there. Oh yeah, the wind's changing. Okay, so we need to be on the lookout for shifty wind, and the wind has shifted. Okay, so we're going to go for a drop. So for the drop, I'm going to come across to the windward side. I'm going to release the sheet, pull the retrieval line, and then release the halyard using the block on the beam, pulling it down as fast as I can. And when it becomes tight, that's the tack line, so I'll just release the tack line and then we can start going upwind again. So I'll go and put the leeward dagger board down. Excellent, we've got some stronger wind now. We couldn't have hoped for better. Right, okay, so we've got a bit more wind now, so I'm going out onto the trapeze. We're going to use this yellow mark as our mark that we're going to turn around and go downwind from there and then put the spinnaker up. So I've got a jobs list. I've already let the downhaul off, so I could chuck that in. First job is down to leeward, get the dagger board up. So I'm going to do that now to make sure I get it done in time. So Rick's going to accommodate for me going to leeward by sheeting out or heading up. There we go, that dagger board's up. Windward dagger board going up. Tack line slowly coming out, and Rick's going to go around the mark nicely, I think. Wind's just dropped there a bit, so tack line's out. I've got a good stable stance ready for the hoist. Here it comes, like a ferret up a drain pipe, and a bit of a twist in the kite. So we'll come up a bit there to put a bit of power on. And if we get this gust, I'm going to come across to windward. So you want to crank the main in a bit more there, dude. Bit of a gust coming, so I'm coming to windward. So I'm coming, yeah, just bear off a little bit. Okay, let's go for a jibe there. Okay, so same as before. I'm just getting ready with the trapeze. Bit of a gust here, so I'm ready to go out. Getting out on the wire. Okay, this is about as high as we can go, so I'm just moving forwards and backwards on the trapeze to keep the boat level in the water. The wind's gone a bit light there, so I'm just going to come in, except there's a gust, so I'm going back out. That's how life works sometimes. Whatever you do, the opposite happens. Okay, so it's got a bit light, so I'm going to come in. If we were racing here, I might even go to the leeward side, so I'm going to do that. Just to encourage the hull lifting as early as possible. It's very gusty, so if we get a gust, I'm going to have to run back up to windward. All right, we can come up there a little bit. So it's a good idea to communicate on the boat. If the crew feels that he can handle a bit more angle, then say it. So Rick's just dialing away the power there a bit. Very nice. A bit more wind coming. I'm going back up to windward. I'm trying not to be too keen to get out on the wire, but there it is, out on the wire. And then we're off. Ooh-hoo-hoo-hoo. Oh yeah, but we're gonna have to drop it pretty soon. This is champagne sailing here in Vasiliki. All right, So I'm coming in, Rick, I'm going to drop it so you can bear away. All right, coming in, taking up the slack, release the halyard, getting it down, release the tack line, and she's in. So there we go. That was really fun. So there's the difference on the Tiger with the cleat there. For the tack line, everything else is the same. Okay, so I'm now on the FX1. And we're going to go around the yellow buoy again to put the kite up. So before I tack, I'm going to put the windward dagger board up. So then we'll tack. Then that means that that job is done. They're going to put up the new windward dagger board. In fact, because I'm quite close to the buoy, I'm not going to go out on the trapeze. So I'm going to bear away round the buoy and then put the kite up. So a little bit more cautious single-handed sailing. So here we go, just wipe the lens, bearing away quite hard. Sitting on the stick, basically pulling the kite up, making sure it's up tight, cranking the main sheet in, because that needs to be in as tight as possible, and then I'll take the sheet, but don't want to have a tangled mess, so just reaching down the sheet a bit. Okay, so I'm just going to start off sitting on the boat, flying the Spinnaker, checking our downwind kind of zone. There we go, big gust, so I'm bearing away there to take care of that big gust. Same on any boat with a Spinnaker, bearing away will help you in the gusts. Okay, so I'm just teasing it back up towards the wind for a bit more power. Bit of a gust coming, so I'm going to bear away. I'll go around the back of this 16 and then I'll jibe. All right, yeah, I think I could jibe there. So going for the jibe. Just need to get the kite back under control. There we go, foot under the tow strap for security. And there we go. I'm going to go for the drop fairly shortly, just to make sure we got loads of space. That's very important. So I'm bearing away, almost onto a run, take the power out. I'm going to pull the Spinnaker down, to cut it in half, then uncleating. And then we can uncleat the main to come back up towards the wind. Okay, coming up to the buoy, I'm out on the trapeze. I'm going to bear away while I'm still out on the trapeze and then come in and then hoist the kite. So I'm just bearing away. All right, it's just a laser there, so I'll go behind the laser. Okay, so sitting on the stick again. Need to come downwind a little bit more. So I'm just giving the stick the odd alteration there, because didn't get quite as good that time in the angle that we had the boat going at. So just cranking the main in tight, and then this time I'm going to go out onto the trapeze, a bit more speed. So I'm just dragging a bit of rope, so just tidy that up. So here, there we are, bit of a gust there, so I had to bear away. Okay, I'm going to go for a jibe. So what I'm going to do is come downwind. In fact, I'm going to drop it there, because I someone in distress. Okay, so we're on board and today we're joined by Tom.
Hi guys.
Tom's going to be operating the front end of the boat. Okay, so we're sailing upwind, we've already got the dagger boards up. So the next thing to do, we're going to let the downhaul off. There we go, to about half. And now we're going to go for the bear away, and at the same time Tom's going to pull the tack line out. I'm going to ease the main sheet a bit for the bear away, just take the pressure off. And now Tom's going for the hoist. While that's hoisting, I'm pulling the main sheet back in. It's probably about 14 knots of wind. So I'm going for the fairly high wind setting. Tom's hooking in on the trapeze. Then once Tom's out, we'll start giving it the juice. You right there? Yeah, good. Okay, juice coming. Right, so we're looking for the gust. There's the gust. I'm looking under the sail for traffic. Just steering gently for the power. There's a big gust coming. Maybe. Hopefully. So probably quite high. Am I quite high here?
Yeah.
Yeah, so I'm asking Tom how high we are, because Tom knows, because he's got the Spinnaker sheet. So I'm just going to bear off a little bit, maybe go inboard a bit, to encourage the hull to fly. So it's not quite enough wind to justify trapezing here.
Got a gust coming soon.
Okay, all right, so maybe before it hits you could jump out.
Yeah.
Right, stick's going off the back again. Right, and here we go. Hopefully we'll see a bit of pace come on here. And there we go, the hull's up. Got the main sheet in as tight as it will go. Hull's in the air. And off we go. Okay, so we're going to go for a jibe. So Tom's going to come in. Are you ready?
Yeah, ready.
All right, so I'm just going to go through the jibe. There it is, Tom. Lovely job sheeting the kite across there.
Yeah, right then.
Okay, yeah. Cool, we're off again. So there we go. You can see the Spinnaker is as loose as possible without it flapping. I'm just steering very gently for the changes in the wind strength. Okay, and I think we should go for a drop.
Yeah.
Okay, so you can come in there. So when Tom comes in, yeah, go for it. He's taking up the slack on the retrieval, releasing the halyard. He's pulling it down. When it gets tight, it's going to release the tack line. Okay, and there we are. So then, now the Spinnaker's down. If we were going back upwind, we pull the downhaul on, put the dagger boards down, and off we go. And then this time we'll jibe a bit earlier. We'll literally get it up, get going, then jibe. So what you could do is go onto the boat, lift the windward dagger board, and then pull the strap to lift the leeward one. That is going to be amazing. All right, ready? Shall I say action? Okay, so we're just coming up to the bear away. All right, so Tom's going to go into the boat, lift the windward dagger board first, and then on this boat we've got straps to lift the daggers. So check this bad boy out. There it is. It's all right, that should drop down again, I think. All right, just going past the Tiger, so Tom can let the downhaul off there. I'm just getting into the foot strap for the bear away, so I can really feel in control. Yeah, tack line there. Okay, and you can start going for the hoist. So I'm coming in, and I'm sheeting in the main. Okay, and we're going to get it pulling, then we're going to jibe straight away. Right, ready? Okay, so going for the jibe. Okay, And Tom's getting hooked on, moving out onto the trapeze. Okay, and off we go. There we go, a bit more wind this time, so we're able to keep the hull out. Bit of a hole there. Having said that, another hole. All right, so what we'll do is we'll go for a drop now. So Tom's gonna come in. This time, dude, if you release the halyard by pulling it through the block, yeah, it's a bit easier. Okay, go for it. Okay, nice drop there. So I'm just going to get hooked on, back out on the trapeze, try not to run this laser down. Nice. Little 2-sail reach to finish. So we've still got the dagger boards up, but that's good on the 2-sail reach. Maybe they are a little bit high. I would say on a boat like this, having it so that that carbon section is just in would be the right amount. So the one other key point that I hadn't mentioned there was just if you are new to using the Spinnaker, make sure that you have got a lot of space, both for the hoist, the drop and sailing with it. Don't leave your jibes to the last minute. Certainly don't leave your drop to the last minute. Make sure that you have got a lot of space. So thanks very much for watching. I hope this has been interesting and informative, and perhaps will make you feel a bit more comfortable putting your Spinnaker up in a variety of different conditions. Once again, thanks to everybody who's been supporting the channel, either through Patreon or by visiting totaljoyrider.com, or getting something from the Amazon store, or visiting us out here at Wild Wind Sailing Holidays in Vasiliki in Greece, where this sort of great sailing is going on every day. So we'll see you next time, and there'll be more coming up soon. Thank you very much.